Assalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Previously, I want to thank you to Mrs. Ratu Sarah who give us permission to start our presentation about evolution. And especially thanks God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has been giving us blessing and mercies so we can attend this meeting with a good condition. Salawat and salam are always given to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who has taught their people respectively in order to attain happy and prosperous life in this world and hereafter. I'm Fitriya Pujiyanti as a moderator and my friends Riyani Amaliah, Dwi Syara Purwita, Devi Romdiani, and Anita Rahmawati as a presenter. Topic of our presentation today is about evolution. The purpose of this presentation are to explain what is the meaning and the theory of evolution in biology clearly. The main point we'll be talking about are firstly, the biological meaning of evolution, the mechanism of evolution, Darwin theory about evolution, and what is Darwinism and Neo-Darwinism, then difference between Darwinism and Neo-Darwinism, what environment factor affect on surviving and producing offspring, what organism will have the best chance of surviving and producing their offspring, how is fitness defined in evolution, and the last we want to talk about what are three types of natural selection. Let's start with first topic. What is evolution? Evolution is the change in the characteristic of a species over several generations and relies on the process of natural selection. Evolution is a process when the genetic composition or allele frequency of a population change over successive generations. When the changes are sufficiently great, a new species may be formed. A species is a group of closely related organisms potentially capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. Now let's move on to the next topic that will be presented by Riyani Amaliah. Riyani Amaliah, time is yours.
Thanks for a moderator who gave me chance to explain the point about the mechanism of evolution and Darwin theory about evolution. The first mechanism of evolution, a number of philosophers and naturalists, are including Confucius and Aristotle in Greece, have suggested that complex species evolve from simple pre-existing ones by a process of continuous and gradual change. However, it was not until the 19th century that scientists came up with plausible mechanism for evolution. The mechanism that is widely accepted among biologists today is called Neo-Darwinism. It is modern theory based on the work of the 19th century naturalist Charles Darwin. Darwin compared the organism of Galapagos Island in the Pacific Ocean with those on the South American mainland, and this led him to develop. He came to the conclusion that over successive generations, a new species comes into being by slow and gradual change from a pre-existing one. He believed that these changes are brought about by a process which he called natural selection. For more than 20 years, Darwin collected evidence to support his theory and refined his ideas. Darwin and Wallace published a paper jointly describing their theory of evolution by natural selection. However, Darwin's name has become more strongly linked with the theory because of a book he published on 24 November 1859. The book entitled the origin of species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life has been called the most important biology book ever written. It not only gives a full description of the theory of evolution by natural selection, but also contains a huge mass of evidence to support the theory. Darwin theory about evolution. Darwin theory was based on three main observations. 1. Within a population are organisms with varying characteristics, and these variations are inherited, at least in part, by their offspring. 2. Organisms produce more offspring than are required to replace their parents. 3. On average, population numbers remain relatively constant and no population gets bigger indefinitely. From this observation, Darwin came to the conclusion that within a population, many individuals do not survive or fail to reproduce. There is a struggle for existence. Thanks, I return to moderator.
Thanks to Riyani Amaliah for the presentation. Next presenter is Devi Romdiani. Devi Romdiani, time is yours.
Thanks to moderator for giving me time to explain what is Darwinism and New Darwinism. Darwinism and New Darwinism are two concepts describing the origin of new species, which leads to evolution. Darwinism is the original concept postulated by Darwin and Wallace, while New Darwinism is a modification of the original theory. And what is Darwinism? Darwinism is the theory of biological evolution postulated by the English naturalist Charles Darwin, 1809 until 1882, and others. It states that all species develop through the natural selection of favorable phenotypic variations that are inheritable. Thus, this increases the individual's ability to compete, survive, and reproduce. And what is New Darwinism? New Darwinism is a modified interpretation of Darwinian evolution in association with the Mendelian genetics and modern synthesis of natural selection. Therefore, it describes the major driving force of speciation as the accumulation of genotypic variations within a gene pool. Some also refer to New Darwinism as modern synthetic theory of natural selection. Some supporters of New Darwinism were Romans, Huxley, Fisher, Fuld, and Haldane. And now I will explain about difference between Darwinism and New Darwinism. First, we can see from definition. Darwinism refers to the theory of the evolution of species by natural selection advanced by Charles Darwin, while New Darwinism refers to a modern version of Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection, incorporating the findings of genetics. Thus, this is the main difference between Darwinism and New Darwinism. And the second, we can see from significance. While Darwinism is the original theory, New Darwinism is a modification based on the Mendelian genetics and modern synthesis of natural selection. And the third, we can see from driving force of speciation. The major driving force described by Darwinism is the accumulation of phenotypic variations, while the major driving force described by New Darwinism is the accumulation of genetic variation. And the fourth, we can see from reason for variation. Another difference between Darwinism and New Darwinism is the cause behind variation. Darwinism doesn't describe the reason for variation, while New Darwinism describes the reason for variation as mutation, genetic recombination, natural selection, and reproductive isolation. And the last, we can see from variations occur in Darwinism, variations occur in individuals, while in New Darwinism, variations occur in the gene pool. Hence, this is also an important difference between Darwinism and New Darwinism. The sixth, we can see from type of natural selection. In Darwinism, natural selection is the survival of the fittest and the removal of the unfitted organisms during a course of time, while New Darwinism, natural selection is the differential amplifications of the fittest genes and genotypes. And the seventh, we can see from effect on reproductive isolation. Also, one other difference between Darwinism and New Darwinism is that Darwinism doesn't believe isolations as a major component of evolution, while New Darwinism believes isolations as a major component of evolution. That's all. Thank you. I return to moderator.
Thanks to Devi Romdiani for the presentation. Now we move to the next topic that will be presented by Anita Rahmawati. Anita Rahmawati, time is yours.
Thank you to the moderator who has given me the opportunity to continue the presentation material this time. Firstly, what is natural selection? Natural selection is the process through which population of living organisms adapt and change. Individuals in a population are naturally variable, meaning that they are all different in some ways. Natural selection is the process whereby organisms better adapted to their environment tend to survive and produce more offspring. The theory of its action was first fully expounded by Charles Darwin and is now believed to be the main process that brings about evolution. Darwin had the idea that natural selection is the mechanism that drives evolution after reading an essay on the principle of population by Thomas Malthus, a clergyman and political economist. Malthus argued that in time, the growth of human population will outstrip the food supply, and that this will lead to famine, pestilence, and war. Number 2. What environmental factors effect on surviving and producing offspring? Environmental factors effect on surviving and producing offspring is environmental factors that keep population in check are called selection pressure or environmental resistance. That include disease, competition for research such as food and a place in which to live, predation, lack of light, water, or oxygen, change in temperature. Number 3. What organism will have the best chance of surviving and producing their offspring, and why does the difference in natality and mortality result in natural selection? The organism with characteristics that give them an advantage in the struggle for existence will have the best chance of surviving and producing offspring. Their high natality or birth rate gives them a selective advantage. On the other hand, thus, will unfavorable characteristics are more likely to die. Their high mortality or death rate gives them a selective disadvantage. Darwin argued that this difference in natality and mortality result in natural selection. That's all I can say. Thank you for your attention. I return it to the moderator.
Thanks to Anita Rahmawati for the presentation. The last topic will be presented by Dwi Syara Purwita. Dwi Syara Purwita, time is yours.
Thanks to the moderator for the time. Here I will explain about how it is defined in evolution and what are three types of natural selections. In evolution, fitness is defined as the ability of an organism to pass on its alleles to subsequent generations. Compared with other individuals of the same species, the fitness individual is a population is the one that produces the largest number of springs. that survive to reproduce themselves. Natural selections, by survival of the fittest, mean that the genetic characteristic of populations gradually change from generation to generation in response to change in the environment. As we shall see in the following spread, natural selections affect a gene pool by increasing the frequency of alleles that give an advantage, and reducing the frequency of alleles that give disadvantage. Next, 3 types of natural selections. Number 1. Stabilizing selections happens in an unchanging environment. Extremes of the phenotypes range are selected again, leading to a reduction in variations. Stabilizing selections occur in the natural selections of birth mass in humans. Number 2. Directional selections. Directional selections favors one extreme of the phenotype range and result in shift of the mean either to the right or to the left. This type of selections usually follow some kind of an environment change. The long neck of the giraffe is thought to have evolved in this way. Probably, when food was in short supply, only the tallest individuals can reach enough food to survive. They pass on their genes to the next generations. The last, disruptive selections. The selections select again intermediate phenotypes in favor those at the extremes. This leads to a bimodal disruptions and 2 overlapping groups of phenotypes. If two groups become unable to interbreed, then each populations may give rise to a new species. Disruptive selections may have contributed to the evolution of Darwin's because there were few other birds to compete. Finch with short, strong beaks had exclusive use of nuts as a food source, while those with long, slender beaks had almost exclusive use of insects. Those fins with an average unspecialized beak were more likely to have been in cooperation with the other species of bird and would have reproduced less successfully. Okay, I think that's enough for me. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thanks to Dwi Syara Purwita who have presented the last topic in this presentation. Now, I'd like to recap the main points of our presentation. 1. Evolution is the change in the characteristic of a species over several generations and relies on the process of natural selection. 2. Natural selection happens when the individuals with characteristics best suited to their environment are more likely to survive, finding food, avoiding predators, and resisting disease. And 3. Darwinism and Neo-Darwinism are 2 concepts describing the origin of new species, which leads to evolution. Darwinism is the original concept postulated by Darwin. Darwinism is the original concept postulated by Darwin and Wallace, while Neo-Darwinism is a modification of the original theory. The modern theory of evolution is called Neo-Darwinism because it incorporates new scientific evidence, particularly from genetic and molecular biology, and the organism with characteristics that keep them an advantage in the struggle for existence will have the best chance of surviving and producing offspring. And the last 3 types of natural selection. First, stabilizing selection happens in an unchanging environment. Second, directional selection favors an extreme of the phenotype range and result in a shift of the mean either to the right or to the left. And last, disruptive selection select against intermediate phenotype and favors those at the extremes. Alright guys, this presentation already finished. Thank you for your attention. We hope our presentation today can be beneficial for all. I'm sorry if there are many mistakes. We are waiting a question in the WhatsApp group. Thank you. Wassalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you guys.